Hello and welcome to the March 2020 Fire Chiefs video message. Joining me this month in studio is Adam Jones.
Hi Chief, how you doing?
Welcome, Adam. You have recently got into the role with the Health and Wellness section and the Assistant Chief there. Thank you for taking those roles. And right after you got there, you picked up a quick duty and you became the point of the infectious task force. So tell us when we started talking about Corona inside MCFRS.
So we knew that it was coming. We could see it migrating across China and Europe. And late January, we had the discussion, senior staff, that we needed to prepare just in case this came to our area. So we began the discussion late January, and February 5th, we convened a task force that I was in charge of. The task force was to get together to get all the players in the room with other state and county agencies, the players in our EMS, special ops, and logistics, and to make sure, what we needed, right, and also to make sure that we had it.
And when you talk about other components, it's county health department, and that's part of Health and Human Services. But the public health officials inside the county are really unique because they're dual role, dual titled state positions and law authorities as well as county.
That's correct.
And then the Office of Emergency Management and Homeland Security as the county emergency manager. So it has been, as frequently and always the case in MoCo, a team and collaborative effort, and it's continued to be that, right?
Yes, sir.
So what was the first parts of the action? You were describing what the group was doing.
So the first part was to talk to HHS and see what the scope of this was. And as a group, we decided that certainly coronavirus or the COVID-19 was a concern. However, we are daily influenced and affected by influenza A, influenza B, and there are different viral illnesses that come down the pike, and there will be next year. There'll be something different.
Right, and that's the thing, is we are still in flu season.
That's right.
We are also breaking into the spring allergy season, and ILI, or influenza-like illness, is one of the terms that identifies what corona or influenza A and influenza B are. And the troubles with that is they all have some of the similar outside symptoms, or the signs and symptoms that we would face. And as we face the flu season from roughly November through March timeframe on a regular basis, it's part of our daily interactions of taking people to the hospital who are showing signs and symptoms of colds, coughing, sneezing, all of that. And it is definitely a point that we have for long talked about proper PPE, and placing that mask on the patient, but we started sending out information to make our folks of the department consider or reevaluate and approach the patients on a different step. Can you describe part of what that was?
Yeah, well, first thing is that we wanted to make sure that we were doing exactly what the CDC said. And that from step one, we have gone with and have not exceeded their standards. That's actually put us in a really good position. The second part to your question is that as we go through, we realized that we needed to give our providers direction. I can tell you, going out there and speaking with them, they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. However, we needed to make sure that we gave them the tools to do the job. And then also, we need to give them the direction as when to use this protective equipment.
Absolutely, and that's the circumstances. One of those tools that was developed was the blog. And as you said, this information is changing. What we knew in early February is extremely revised. I'm not going to say old or different, it's just been revised because information is changing. So describe what the folks see when they get to the blog, and describe when they're supposed to go to the blog.
Okay, so, and just so we're clear, about 7 days ago, we realized that emails were not going to cut it, that we needed to make sure that everybody was on the same page and that we communicated and received information in real time Well, in real time. So we went to the MCFRS Quick Links, and if you go to our Quick Links page, the first thing right on top, it says the infectious disease.
Big orange block.
Yeah, and you click that, and basically it's a one-stop shop for the latest information that comes out and what we're supposed to do. It talks about the equipment that we've given you, how to use, what to use it, and how to reorder it, most importantly. And then it also talks about what's going on as far as our intentions and who we're working with and how this is evolving.
Correct. And many links off of that, and one of those links is the playbook.
Yeah.
That gives additional sets of information, and the driving message that we're saying here today, we say every day on the dock log and through those other distributions, and there'll be a chief's order that comes out probably within a day of our taping this, so probably before people even watch this video, is it changes so frequently that every morning that lineup, it has to be reviewed.
Yeah, and the docs are pushing that out.
The information has to be looked at, because if you do back-to-back shifts on a Thursday and a Friday, what you saw Thursday morning can be adjusted with support information by Friday morning, and it's important to look at it again Friday morning. We will send out an FRS all to highlight a critical change, but there will be additional stuff added daily. There's that option to get an email notification, so if you want to get that, you can sign up to get those.
Linking
posts
on the blog is very helpful, and if you see it, you can delete it. However, you will get the latest update information, and it's a very nice short clip. It's informative, and then you can accept it and move on.
Right, and as you said, we've pushed out more equipment to units. So apparatus have more of the N95 mask and the face shields and other components, wipes and cleaning supplies.
That's right.
The likelihood of Montgomery County Fire Rescue folks being engaged with, as we did in Ebola, as we did with SARS, as we did with H1N1 or the bird flu, it's going to happen. Yeah. As of today, there's 5 or so cases of folks within the county, 20 or so cases in the DC region. What are we at? 1,200 in some cases. Yep. So as of this morning in the U.S., it's definitely a component that is going to be with us for plus or minus 2 months in my estimate. This is not a sprint. How would you describe this? How, as the department, needs to address it?
So a couple things. First of all, our goal was, no matter what we did, is to get this equipment out to the providers with instruction.
Right.
Now, if it wasn't a perfect run, that's okay. It was a test run. We got the equipment out there. If logistically there's a better way to do it, we will accept it. We completely understand that we're going to go into summer, and that in November we're going to have to poll the stations to see what they have. We will have more supplies and logistics, and by December 15th, we're going to make sure everybody has this stuff throughout the winter, because the next flu or this flu, it's coming when it gets cold. So.
And that's another half of the story is, in early February, we implemented supply orders for known supplies to add to our stock of supplies. Only a few of those orders have come in. Some of those orders are still estimated to be 2 months out in the possibility of receiving them. So this is another highlight of how the fire service, public safety services need to be critical infrastructure.
Sure.
And our ability to have stockpiled supplies and be able to support the marathon and the long duration incident is going to be a challenge. But we do have a lot of folks working at Central Maintenance Logistics and supporting that. And that's the intent of the daily inventories, is to make sure we have the supplies there, and we can give you the supplies at the station level to keep you up to service, because Boundtree is not going to ship it to you.
Right.
It's just not going to be the normal supply chain.
So, Chief, can I ask you a question?
Certainly.
Can we talk about the upcoming Fire Chief's General Order just a little bit?
Absolutely.
Okay, so I think it's important for folks to know that we've added additional screening in the 911 process.
You're right. So one of the things that has been out there in the EMD protocol is the 36 card. That is a pandemic card. But what we're implementing is a question at the end of the 911 screening that asks, I'm going to go backwards a step. We would only go to the 36 card if we were in EMD.
Right.
If you called and said the person at home is sick and you were coughing. But what happens if it's an automatic fire alarm? What happens if it's a non-medical emergency? We wouldn't even get to the 36 card. So the suffix type question, or the question at the end of the process that's going to be asked to all callers, relates to, is there anybody in the residence who traveled recently? Relates to, is there anybody there that has flu-like symptoms? Because that's going to be additional information that will be added to the comments.
Right.
And even if you're going for a smoking dishwasher, everybody needs to make sure they're looking in the comments, because it will be added there to address. So that's being added, and that work started this week. So we're taping this on Wednesday, the 11th of March.
Yeah.
And so that started this week. So that's in the general order. What else is in that general order?
So also, and this is going to be a big change of business, when you're alerted that there's somebody with viral symptoms, and that's spelled out on our blog what they are, we're going to ask, even if it's a call that requires an ALS with a heavy support unit for personnel power, that 2 people go in with their precautions on, with their masks and their gloves, and they go in and do a recon. And if 2 providers can assist somebody and get them back into the ambulance, that's fine. We want to limit the amount of resources that we bring into these homes. Right. If they need a 3rd person or a 4th person, or all 5, that's fine. But for our supply chain and for our exposure,
risk management, yep.
and exposure of patients from us, we want to make sure that we limit that contact.
Absolutely. So that's the detail there is start assessing that patient from the socially recognized 6 feet away component.
That's right.
Is that patient sneezing, coughing, making airborne droplets? And if so, ensuring that you, as the first provider, have your eye protection on and your N95 on, your gloves, go forward, put a mask, surgical mask, on that patient. But 2 people should be the first wave of folks into the structure, into that house, to do that assessment. Not all 4 on the engine, not all 6 if you have a combined.
And that's quite a change of business.
It is by far. Frequently the driver of the engine or the heavy unit would stay outside, but we do definitely want to address that by saying expose or place people into that environment at a limited measure until you know the circumstances, as well as until you have appropriate precautions in place. So that's in there. And you used another word a moment ago, viral symptoms. Mm-hmm. So that's part of this general order, because it's how this is evolving, because this is a description that's now being used in the health industry here, right?
Right.
So go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, once it got into Washington State, and we certainly can say that it's geographic, but there are community cases in the United States. Mm-hmm. So I do believe that, I know that the hospitals are using that. They're not even using the
foreign travel.
Correct.
It's
the basically sick and flu-like symptoms, and we're calling that viral conditions.
Right, and as we said, you used to say, had you been to China, and then China was expanded to a few other countries. And then it was without travel indications, but you had fever and ILL or influenza-like. Now it's being identified as viral symptoms. That's why this is so dynamic and something that everybody needs to address and update their knowledge base by touching the blog and the playbook. One of the things that we learned of yesterday, my message last night identified one of the members of MCFRS has contracted COVID, is doing well, is at home, and we worked with the state health folks as well as the folks within the department to discuss and to consider and evaluate if there was a concern to the other coworkers. And as my message last night outlined, there was not. And the circumstances were held. And just like the patients that we may run who are considered a PUI, person under investigation, until that person under investigation is tested and then evaluated for the risk factors, it's still an investigation. And these health departments are not communicating about every PUI that was investigated. So I know this is news to folks within the department. It is a fact. We've seen cases in our Washington companions in fire service. There was a case that I saw in the media of an FDNY EMT who obtained COVID, likely through their work involvement. And it is a narrative that we are aware of.
Well, I think it's very important to understand that the testing was limited up until a week ago, and it was going down to the CDC in Atlanta. Every single state in the United States has testing capabilities now. We have a testing capability in Baltimore, and we can get a 24 to 48 hour turnaround time. What is you're going to see is that we're going to get a flood of hundreds of thousands of test kits, and so you're going to see people test positive. And I think really the takeaway for now in Montgomery County is the folks who have come up positive with this have had minor flu-like symptoms, and like Dr. Gale said, are doing well. Right. So are you going to see more cases? Yeah, because we have hundreds of thousands of more test kits, but so far our population that are not compromised, elderly.
Absolutely, and that's changing every day. Governor Hogan announced some new information just on Monday about folks over 60, folks with compromising medical circumstances or higher risk considerations, what they should be doing. The information, as you said, Dr. Gales is the public health officer for Montgomery County, an excellent resource, one that we are talking to multiple times a day about these cases, concerns, and how to best address the community's needs as well as the department's needs. The information is there, as you say. More testing will possibly identify more folks that have COVID-19. This is another example of highlighting one of the simple precautions and the simple messages is if you're sick, stay at home.
Yeah.
Isolate yourself. I myself, implemented that. It's coming last week, Thursday night. I just was getting a head cold and basically a sinus headache and sinus congestion. I outlined to the folks and rearranged my activities on Friday, and I spent all day Friday and Saturday at home.
Yeah.
For telephone calls, yes. Emails, yes, but did not engage with my activities that were planned for Friday and Saturday, and most of my activities on Sunday I didn't engage with because I had low grade cold, which could have been could have been allergies. Did not have a fever, but could have been an allergy. And that's the base message that all health officials are saying. If you feel sick, stay home.
Sure.
If you have those symptoms, isolate yourself and treat yourself to not share and spread.
Yeah, and I think it's also important to understand too that this is a droplet infection, and the droplets suspend for 2 seconds. They are saying that they could be alive outside of the body for potentially up to 2 hours. But as we distributed the level 2 wipes to our personnel, that's for the worst case of viral infections that we would come across. This stuff is very weak. It dies with soap and water.
And that's the thing about hand washings is we are bad in our habits of touching surfaces, desks, knobs, things, and then touching our face. And I'm not touching my face, but it's mimicking that. So we are bad at that. And then you pick up something that was left on the counter or the kitchen table from somebody else, and then because that moist droplet is on your hand, you then do this or something and it gets in your mucous membranes, and now you got it.
Yeah, and we see that. Our providers do a phenomenal job, but we see folks with their EPCRs and their gloves, and then they're eating lunch, and it's So to that end, we've worked with EMS and the quality assurance, and we are currently in capturing some videos,
right,
so we can talk about proper intubation, extubation, droplet infection, anything to do with an airway intervention, as well as EPCR use, potential about your Class C uniform, when to take it, where to wash it. So we're putting, and also proper donning and doffing of your respiratory protection.
Right, so we got a lot of smart people. We're using references that are already out there.
That's right.
Highlighting the best parts or the most applicable parts of the previously produced videos and reference material out there. So that'll be out pretty shortly.
Yes.
It's likely, the plan is we're going to do a COVID-19 stand down this upcoming weekend and focus on all those things you just talked about as a department-wide, day-specific activity for the folks over a 3-day period. And then anybody else on a duty crew or a night crew, definitely follow up on your first day back with your crewmates and the folks on your shift to address that. So a lot of dynamic information.
And one other thing too is we put a lot of pressure, but any questions certainly can. The blog is active. You can ask questions, right, but your EMS duty officers are very dialed in. If you need something right away, please consult them.
And that's the point. I'm looking at the question, component here. Every question is going to get addressed. If it doesn't get a response in the FAQ in a short period of time, it's because it's a little more complicated, and we're working to get the correct answer. That Montgomery County FAQ came out yesterday with some other information on the broad sense. So it's important that people reference that and help each other and ask those questions, because every question is a good question.
Yeah, and I know that MCFRS leadership has been and reached out daily with both the volunteer and career labor unions, and discussions are open for their concerns as well.
Right, and again, this is a marathon. This is a multi-week event. We can talk about long duration events in our career. Some of them have been fires. Some of them have been other events. And what we would call as long has been a couple of days or maybe a week or two long. This is going to be much longer than that.
I do remember we spent a couple of months at the Travilla.
It was a little fire near the old academy. There's no doubt. Donnie Boyd in his retirement process recalled some memories about the mid-1990s was when that was. There's no doubt. So Adam, to yourself, to Dan Ogren, Mo Witt, Alan Bush, Ben Kaufman, Mike Baltrowski. I think I hit everybody mostly on the FRS side that had started with the infectious task force.
Yeah, Stacy Jones too.
Yep, Stacy as well. Jason Giza as another one. I'm sorry about just recall. Yeah. Everybody helping, and to all of those that were helping now, helped in the past, and will help in the future weeks. Thank you. It's imperative, and it's great seeing how everybody's helping each other. We did transition a few days ago to an IMT activity within FRS, and that's being led by Charles Bailey and Mo Witt, with the same group supporting, but a process to know that this was longer and a bigger event than it had started out.
And really just getting us acclimated for someone like me who doesn't use it all the time, with WebEOC and being able to contact those different organizations within the county and state.
No doubt. So the takeaway for COVID for everybody would be touch that website.
Yeah, absolutely. If any questions, and please just if you have a question, or if you see that you want something to quality improvement, let us know, because we wanted to get the stuff out there, and we wanted to get there in a timely manner. We knew there are improvements that need to be made. Let us know. We'll make them.
Absolutely. And it's the fact of we had plans. We're utilizing some equipment that was with us in the past, and utilizing some of the procedures that are our daily operational procedures, but we've adjusted some of those because of the unique nature of this viral outbreak.
And we'll be continuing to adjust.
Absolutely. So one of the things about our job is the world does continue. We run 330 give or take calls a day. That's part of MCFRS in today's environment. Naturally, 250 of those, 190 or so of those are people we take to the hospital. But yesterday we had a couple pretty good brush fires. Right. We were in an increased fire threat. On Monday afternoon, we had a 3-alarm fire, right. Station 33's area on Lindsay Hill, which is Park Potomac or near Harris Teeter there off of 7 Locks. These pictures show the great work that were done by the crews Excellent. There on that call. 4-story townhouses. These were not 2-over-2s, but almost the same exact opportunity in the 2-over-2 townhouses. But there was fire on the roof of this half roof top deck patio and half living space. And you know, the diligence of stretching a line to the 4th floor is time consuming and crew intensive. Practice and exercising is a key part of that. Truck placement was paramount and Excellent. Well done. Ladder placement. So kudos to the guys and gals on that event for their work. Kudos to everybody on supporting the circumstances of the daily call volume.
Well, that's one of the things that I stop by fire stations and talk to judge the pulse of folks, and they are firefighters, paramedics, and EMTs. They're unflappable, and they do an excellent job, and they take whatever comes at them, and that's why we commit as management to try to take care of that.
And that's the point. Is I was talking to somebody this morning. Is as the 1960s and 70s in large metropolitan areas, when you had a problem, you called the fire service.
Yeah.
Fire service showed up to the street box and resolved it and or got the people that could resolve it. And that's still the role of the fire service today.
Yeah, sure.
Is we do answer the questions or answer the call, and while it may not be the cat in the tree, it may not be the fire or the medical emergency, we do frequently get asked to answer the call that's outside of the fire rescue scope, but we are there to help the community. So I appreciate everybody doing that, everybody's ability to be flexible with this COVID and anything else that develops, but it will be a part of our universe for a good time to come.
All right.
So Adam, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
Definitely a lot of information out there. As we said, the information is evolving. Touch back on the infectious playbook, touch back on the blog, make sure you're talking about it with your crew, make sure that you and your personnel have the resources on your unit. Make sure that you are addressing those circumstances, reaching out for assistance when you need it, and we will get through this. We will be able to learn and adjust from this as we go. And springtime is here. It was 70-some degrees yours today. Get out there, do your training. Get out there, work on your skills, and enjoy that great weather. Because the summer will soon be upon us, and while we had no snow this winter, the heat and hazy humidity of summer will always be back. So, till next month, take care.